All right, let's be honest. Ever opened up a new gadget, saw that manual, and thought, nope, not today.
Yeah.
It's like they're written in some ancient alien language. But what if I told you those little booklets are like mini textbook heroes in disguise? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of user manuals. And joining us is expert speaker who knows a thing or two about navigating the learning curve in our tech-obsessed world.
It's true. Those manuals hold way more value than we give them credit for.
They really do. And our guide for this deep dive is tech writer Curt Robbins. He's got some seriously insightful takes on why user manuals, especially in the fast-paced realm of IT, are more than just instruction pamphlets.
Right.
They're practically essential.
Totally. In IT especially, things are changing so quickly these days, it's almost impossible to keep up.
Totally. Okay, so Robbins calls manuals the unsung heroes of IT, the critical bridge between mind-blowing tech and us mere mortals trying to use it. Expert speaker, what's he getting at with that whole critical bridge idea?
Okay, so imagine this. You've got this cutting-edge, super powerful piece of technology, but you can't, for the life of you, figure out how to work the darn thing.
Right.
That's where a well-written manual swoops in to save the day,
Okay.
bridging the gap between, that complex technical jargon and our human brains that crave, clear, concise instructions.
It's like that universal translator they use in Star Trek.
Right.
But for understanding our gadgets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's even more crucial in fields like IT, where it's constantly new software, updates, systems are popping up left and right. Clear, effective communication is key.
It's not just about clicking buttons in the right order, is it? Robbins talks about these manuals as mini courses. Is he being serious? Because I'm kind of intrigued by that idea.
He's absolutely serious. A well-crafted manual does so much more than tell you which buttons to press.
Right.
It's like a crash course in how the technology actually works.
Yeah.
So you're not just, like, memorizing steps. You're building a deeper understanding, which then empowers you to troubleshoot problems.
Right.
Experiment with different features.
Oh, okay.
And maybe even discover new ways to use the tech that you never would have thought of before.
So you're saying a good manual and turn us all into tech wizards?
Maybe not full-blown wizards, but definitely more confident and capable users.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Robbins argues that those well-written manuals can actually save companies a significant amount of money.
Okay, now that's a bold claim. How does that work?
Think about it.
Yeah.
How often do you call tech support?
Oh, all the time.
In a frustrated frenzy because you can't figure something out?
Yeah.
Or how much time gets wasted when you're stuck wrestling with a tech issue instead of, actually working?
Oh, so much time.
A comprehensive, easy-to-understand manual can drastically reduce those support calls.
Okay.
And boost productivity.
Right.
It's like preemptively solving problems before they even arise.
So a good manual is basically an investment in efficiency for everyone involved. I like the way Robbins thinks. And you know what this reminds me of? The whole user experience or UX thing. We've all been there, tearing our hair out over some confusing interface.
Ugh, the worst.
How does a user manual fit into making that experience better?
It's all about anticipating those pain points.
Okay.
Guiding the user through them with clear, concise explanations. A good manual will walk you through those potentially confusing areas, define technical terms in plain English, maybe even offer different approaches depending on your experience level.
Right.
It's like having a patient, tech-savvy friend right there beside you, saying, "Don't worry, I gotcha."
So instead of battling our tech, we can actually, use it effectively.
Exactly.
Now, Robbins didn't just leave us hanging with vague ideas about what makes a good manual.
Right.
He laid out some specific guidelines.
You did.
And the first one is all about audience focus.
Which is crucial.
Okay.
You wouldn't explain something to a 5-year-old the same way you'd explain it to a college professor.
Right.
The same principle applies to using manuals. A good manual knows who its target audience is. Are they tech-savvy professionals, or are they everyday users just trying to get a handle on the basics?
Right.
That clarity of audience dictates the tone, language, and level of detail provided.
It's like having a built-in jargon decoder.
Exactly. No more deciphering technical gibberish.
Please.
Robbins emphasizes the importance of clear, concise language that everyone can understand.
It's explain it to me like I'm 5, but for the tech world, and honestly, I'm here for it.
Absolutely. And visuals are key too.
Yeah.
Diagrams, flowcharts, even well-placed screenshots can make a world of difference in helping people grasp complex concepts quickly.
A picture is worth 1,000 words, especially when you're trying to set up a wireless printer. Speaking of making things easier to understand, how do you make a manual engaging to read? Because let's be real, no one wants to slog through a boring technical document that feels like a textbook.
That's where Robbins' suggestion of using real-life scenarios comes in. Instead of just listing the steps for, say, resetting a password, the manual could frame it as a story, like, imagine you're about to log in, but you can't remember your password.
Oh, that's good.
This helps people connect with the information on a more relatable level, making it more memorable and engaging.
It's like tricking your brain into thinking you're reading an interesting anecdote instead of a dry manual.
Exactly.
And honestly, I'm impressed. Okay, but here's what I'm really curious about. We all know technology changes at the speed of light these days. So how on earth do you keep these manuals up to date so the information is actually relevant and helpful?
That's where the beauty of evergreen content comes in.
Evergreen content. Tell me more.
It's all about creating content that's designed to be easily updated as new information emerges.
Okay.
Think modular sections, online versions that can be easily revised, and maybe even a system for gathering user feedback to identify areas that need clarification or expansion.
It's like a living, breathing document, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a smart approach, especially in the world of tech, where things can change on a dime.
Okay, so Robbins didn't just give us all the good stuff.
Right.
He also dove into what not to do.
Yeah.
The manual mistakes that make us want to chuck those booklets across the room.
Yes.
And the first one honestly kind of surprised me, ignoring user feedback.
You'd be surprised how often that happens.
Really?
Companies get so laser focused on pushing out the latest and greatest tech that the humble user manual gets left behind in the dust.
Which seems kind of counterintuitive, right?
Right.
What's the point of having a manual if it doesn't actually help anyone?
Precisely. Robbins is a big advocate for treating manuals like you would any other product.
Okay.
Test them out. He even suggests beta testing drafts with real users to see where they stumble, get confused, or just completely zone out.
Interesting. So it's like usability testing, but for instructions?
Exactly.
Okay, that makes perfect sense when you think about it that way. Okay, next up is a big one. And something I bet a lot of us don't even consider accessibility.
Huge consideration.
Right.
I mean, technology should be accessible to everyone.
Right.
And that includes the manuals that teach us how to use it.
Robbins mentioned offering manuals in multiple languages, which, seems like kind of a no-brainer these days. But what about things like visual impairments? How do you make a manual accessible to someone who can't easily see the text or diagrams?
That's where thoughtful design comes in.
Okay.
A truly accessible manual will factor in things like font sizes, using high-contrast color palettes for people with color blindness, and providing alternative text descriptions for images so screen readers can interpret them for visually impaired users.
It's all about removing those barriers
Yeah.
and making sure everyone has equal access to the information they need.
Absolutely. And, it's not just about being ethically responsible.
Right.
It also just makes good business sense to cater to as wide an audience as possible.
100%. Okay, another pitfall Robbins warns us about is, get this, too much information.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, there is such a thing as too helpful.
Oh, for sure. Information overload is a real phenomenon,
Right.
and it can be just as overwhelming in a user manual as it is anywhere else.
Totally.
You open up the booklet, and you're met with this wall of text. Dense paragraphs, technical terms flying everywhere.
Yeah.
It's enough to make anyone's eyes glaze over.
It's too much. I've been there.
Right?
It's like they took all the information they could possibly think of and just dumped it into the manual without any thought for organization or clarity.
Exactly. A well-designed manual understands the power of chunking information,
Okay.
breaking it down into bite-sized, easily digestible pieces.
Right.
Clear headings, bullet points, concise language. Those are your best friends when it comes to user manuals.
Don't forget, a good table of contents. I'm all about that quick start guide life. If I can get up and running quickly, I'm a happy camper.
Me too. And you know what else can make or break a user manual?
What's that?
You guessed it, jargon.
Jargon, the archenemy of clear communication.
The worst. It's like they forget they're writing for real people.
Right.
Not robots or AI programs.
Not everyone has a PhD in computer science.
Exactly.
Right. And it's so tempting to fall back on that technical language, especially when you're like deep in the weeds of a particular topic.
Fully.
But a truly effective manual, it acts as that jargon translator,
Yes.
making sure everyone is speaking the same language.
100%.
Okay, so to recap our deep dive so far,
Yep.
we've learned that a well-written user manual is like a trusty sidekick in our tech-filled world.
It is.
It's clear, concise, engaging, accessible, and constantly evolving.
All of those things, and more than just providing instructions.
Okay.
It's about fostering a positive user experience.
Right.
And that's something we can all appreciate.
And here's the thing that's really blowing my mind about all of this.
What's that?
Robbins' insights about what makes a great user manual. They apply to so much more than just tech.
That's true.
Think about anytime you're trying to explain something complex to someone else.
It's all about communication.
Right.
Clear, effective, and engaging communication.
Right.
And that's a skill that's valuable in every aspect of our lives.
Okay, you're speaking my language. So how do we take these golden nuggets of wisdom from the world of user manuals and apply them to our own communication? It's like Robbins cracked the code for communication and we get to steal all his secrets.
Exactly. Whether you're writing an email, teaching someone a new skill, or, yeah, even like assembling that piece of furniture with the dreaded instruction manual.
Oh, don't get me started.
It all comes down to the same principles.
Right.
Really thinking about, like, what do they need to know? And then how could I deliver that information in a way that's easy to understand, interesting, and, dare I say, even a little bit enjoyable.
It's about putting yourself in the other person's shoes, really.
100%.
Okay, I like it.
And, honestly, that's where those user manuals, those unlikely heroes of the information age,
Right.
they can teach us a thing or two.
Yeah.
They might just hold the keys to unlocking better communication in all areas of our lives. So
I'm kind of mind blown by this whole thing. User manuals? Who knew?
Right.
Okay, so next time I'm like wrestling with a new gadget or a complex project at work or even just, trying to explain something to a friend or family member,
Yes.
I'm going to channel my inner user manual writer, I guess.
There you go.
Keep it clear, concise, maybe use some visuals, throw in a real-life example.
Exactly.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into the surprisingly fascinating world of user manuals has come to an end.
They're more interesting than they sound.
Way more interesting. But the real challenge starts now. How are you going to use these communication superpowers in your own life?
That's the question.
Until next time, keep those brains engaged, and remember, a little clarity can go a long way.